Very good morning. So here we are going into the second scan file, and in this particular lesson we will be focusing mainly on the concept of regions. So here in menu you can go ahead and import your scan file. So let's go ahead and click on import, and in day 1 of our training folder we will be able to find a file called valve.stl. So let's click on valve.stl and say import only. So we are going to use this particular STL file and import it as a mesh. So if points only is checked on, please uncheck it and have it similar to the interface that I'm having in my screen. And when we click on import only, we can see that the part has come over, and you can click on valve and look at the properties tab here. So if you make one click on valve, you can see the properties. It'll say the name of the scan is valve, the entity type is mesh, its color is blue, and it has around 1.4 million polygons. You can also look at the bounding box dimensions. So here you can see it's about 172 by 66 by 78 millimeters. So it's a small valve, about 10 millimeters in size. Sorry, 17 centimeters in length. So to start with, we can start by hiding our reference planes. So I'm hiding my front, top, and right reference planes. Now in Geomagic Design X Go, we have included the concept of regions. So if we look at this particular valve, we can see, rotate, and we can understand that a lot of these portions are made of analytical components. By analytical components, I mean areas like planes, cylinders, circles, etc. And there's a very important capability where the software can identify these type of features for you. So here on the top we have a tab called regions. So where my cursor is highlighting, you can make a click on the regions tab, and you'll see that there are three options: merge, split, and insert. And these options are grayed out at the moment. So we'll be making use of these selection icons and working with them. So to begin with, a region is basically a collection of scan polygons. So I can go ahead in my screen and click on the smart selector. So I see that this particular part of this particular scan, it would actually form a face in the cat if you imagine it that way. So I can go to smart selector and select out this particular face. So I'm selecting out this particular face, and notice that I am avoiding this small imperfection type of an area. Now you can go ahead and say insert. There is an option called insert here in the region tab. So when you click on insert, the software is going to add a color map. So I clicked on insert, and we can see that it has colored this particular area. So this process is called segmentation. So currently, as of now, we are segmenting this body manually. So here I have manually selected an area of the scan, and I have asked it to separate it just for the viewing and analysis purposes within the software. So you can use any form of a selection tool. So here I can also come ahead and select the areas of this particular face and say insert again. So now I can go into my line selector tool, and I can hover over the region that I created. So we have region 1 here. I hover over it and it says it's a plane. Same case here, I have region 2, and when I hover over it, the software says that it's a plate. So the algorithms in Geomagic DX Go by default identified these areas as planar regions. So you can use any form of a selection tool. Say for example, I can come to my polyline selection mode, which is highlighted here. I can click that particular area, and I can also like say select out a segment of the mesh like that, and I can say insert. Now when I go to the line selector tool, I can put my selection mode on line, and when I hover my mouse, it says that it's a cylinder. So you can basically use any form of a selection tool. So I'm using the lasso tool here, and I'm drawing that particular shape around like that, and I'm saying insert. Now when I go here and I hover over my mouse, the software identifies this particular area as a cylinder. So this type of a feature is very useful. You can keep on flagging most of the areas as regions. So you can also select a whole area like that and say insert. Now this whole area which is selected, it's inserted as one single region, and it says it's a revolution, which means it's a lofted surface. Now we know that this is a very large area, and this can be further segmented down to smaller regions. So you can always select the region of interest and do a split command. So where you see my cursor on the screen, we have the split command. So here, if needed, you can choose limit to region. So limit to region says only make the splitting on this particular region and only make the changes on this particular region. So here you can now come and say add a split like that. Now that is gonna split this into two regions. So now here we have one region. You can say okay. So this is region 1, which is a cylinder, and this is region 2, which is a freeform. A freeform basically means this it's a freeform structure, or the software identifies this region as an organic area. So you can go again to split, and you can also do something like this where you don't choose any particular region as your limit to region, but you just kind of come and you select, and you can split on and on and on. So I can come here, I can make a line from here to here, so it's gonna split this particular region. So you can make your lines this way, and you can like use it to split this region into multiple regions. And you can notice that as you're making these regions, the software would add a different coloration to them. So here I'm adding my regions by myself, and I'm separating them bit by bit. So this is a filleted area, so I can come here and separate this area, and now I can see that it has been chopped into a few different regions. And you can say okay. So this is how the split command works. So now if you put your selector on line selection mode and hover, it says this is a plane, this is a cylinder, this is a part of a cylinder, this is a plane, this is a cylinder, a cylinder, a cylinder, and a plane again, and so on. So this is how you can split different regions. Now if the region is identified as a plane, you can also right click, you can hover your mouse on top of this particular region, and it will highlight in a red color. Now you can right click and say do a mesh sketch. Then this is the same process as we had done previously. You can offset it a tad bit, and you can say okay. So now here you have your particular mesh sketch generated, and we kind of previously saw that these areas were cylindrical areas. So I can come and show again, this area is a cylinder, this area is also a cylinder, whereas this face is a plane and this side is a plane. So I can go into my sketch, put this in a normal view, and I can hide my mesh. Now I can use lines, so I can go to the line selector tool, and I can double click here and double click here to best fit lines. And on this section, if I wanted to fit an arc, I can either make a drag box. So I can make a drag box around this region, and I can say, okay, I'm going to do the same thing again. I go to 3-point arc tool, and I slowly make a drag box here to fit an arc. We are doing this since we identified that area as a cylinder. Now you can close these edges by doing the corner trim tool. So I can click on corner trim, select my edges 1 and 2, do the same operation here again, and close out this entire structure. So I have closed out this particular piece, and if needed you can add your fillets at this stage. So you can go to fillet tool. The fillet tool is present here, and you can click on edge 1 and then click and hold your left mouse and move your mouse. Now you can move your mouse and place it so that it's on top of this particular trace. So here we added a fillet of 6.4361 mm. You can change that to 6.45 if needed. So here I have changed it to 6.45 mm. And now I can also specify this value. I can make a fillet of 6.45 mm, and I can click the edges to add the fillets in the remaining corner, assuming they're of the same fillet radius. And you can say, okay. Now we also see that we have some circles here, so I can double click with my circle tool. So I can go here to my circle tool, I can hover over this area and double click. Similarly, I come here again and double click. So you can keep on double clicking and generate these particular circles. And if needed, you can also select all of them. So you can hold Control on your keyboard and select these circles. And you can go to the Constraints tab here. So you have a Constraints option here where you see my cursor. And you can click on Constraints and make them equal radius. There should be a command here called equal radius. So you can click on that and say, OK. So now we're done with our sketch portion, and we can go ahead and exit this particular interface, and we have our first sketch. Now you can also use these regions while you're using it to perform operations like extrude. So we want to extrude this body, so you can go into the model tab where my cursor is, and you can click on the extrude option. So we're going to use the extrude solid option since that's the option that we need to make. So we click on extrude and we choose our sketch 1. Now we previously saw that we can certainly do a blind type of an extrude and kind of place it on top of that area, or you can enter a value of measurements here, like say 20 mm, and it will extrude it till 20 mm. But we can also do something called extrude up to region. So when you click on the method drop down, there would be an option called up to region. So you can click on up to region, and you'll see that there is a sub method. There are 4 options. You have trim up, extrude up to the minimum distance position, extrude up to the mean distance position, extrude up to the maximum distance position, and trim with region fit surface. So if you use trim with region fit surface, and if you pick the region up to which you want to extrude, which is this yellow region here, you can click on that region, and the software will show you a preview of how it's going to make a region fit extrude. So if you show the accuracy analyzer, you can see that this result is very good. It's very, very green and accurate. And you can say, OK. So this way, you can also use your regions to generate very, very accurate models. As you can see in the screen, this area is fully green. It's very nice and very accurate. So now that we have done this particular process, we can further go on and continue practicing the regions a little bit more. So we can go again to the region tab where you see my cursor, and we can start by using the smart selection tool, and we can make this particular cylinder. So you can select on this particular area, and you can see that we have selected this particular area here. Now I'm holding shift, and it's also selecting some areas in the bottom that we do not need. So one thing we need to be careful about is that the quality of the region that will be developed will depend for certain on the number of polygons that you have selected. For example, here this is a part of another cylinder, so you can confidently go ahead and remove this selection. So I'm holding Control on my keyboard and I'm removing that selection. And even in the upper side, you can remove this area of filleting. So I'm holding Control and I'm just keeping the area which I feel really confident about. Now I can say insert here to add this particular selection as a region. So I'm clicking on insert, and then I can go to the line selection mode and click on that region and see that it's a cylinder. Now we see that this same cylinder is the item that is extending on the top. So we see that this cylinder kind of proceeds forward in the upward direction. So we can start by going ahead and making a cylinder for that particular area as well. So you can use your smart selector and select out the areas as necessary like this, and then go ahead with the splitting. So I have selected these many areas, and if there's some areas that you obviously don't want, you can also use the paintbrush tool here in my screen. You can use that selection mode, and you can hold Control and remove out that particular selection. So here we obviously know that this is a part of another cylinder, so we removed that. And here we can say insert. So you can go ahead and insert this particular area. Now you see that even though we made a separation here, and when we created a region, it added both of these items as a single region. So a region need not always be connected together. You can choose different areas that are disconnected. So you can choose an area like this, and you can choose another face that looks like that, and say insert. Now when you do that, the software will have both of them as a single region. This is a single region as of now. So this is something which we would need to be a bit careful with. And you can always click on a region and you can split it later. You can split it into multiple different parts, or you can insert this particular selection as a separate region. So I'm going to do undo twice, and you can go ahead with your polygon selection tool, and you can select out this particular area. So I'm selecting out this particular area, and I can see that this would form the cylindrical portion of that particular area. So I can say insert. Now this is going to create a particular area that looks like this, and I can combine this area with the bottom cylinder as well if needed. So if you feel that this is a part of this particular cylinder, you can click on both of them. So you can click on region 1 and it would highlight in a turquoise color, and you can control click on region 2. Now there's a command called merge. So similar to the split command, the merge command can be used to combine multiple regions into one. So I can say merge them together. Now it's gonna combine both of these items into one single area or one single region. And we can also see that it has selected some unwanted areas here. So I can always go into the split command and I can split up this particular region. You can also insert new regions here and there. I'm inserting a region here. You can select this area and say insert region there, and so on. So I'm going to do undo 2 more times so that I reach this area till I don't have that particular item selected. So here I'm going to apply this particular selection and say insert. Now, as mentioned previously, I can select these two areas and merge them, and we will obtain a combined region. So control click on region again and click on merge tool. Now these two will become a single region, as you can see here. And sometimes if the software identifies this combined region, say as a cone, you can either use it as a cone, but if you click on region group 1 and if you go to properties, you can see that the top radius, bottom radius, height of the cone, etc. are provided. So here we have a top radius of 19.6728, bottom radius of 19.8079, etc. provided in this particular properties tab. So here it also says the geometry type is a cone. Now, since the top and the bottom radius are pretty much the same, if you want to change this to a type of to a different fitting type, you can click on geometry type here, and here in this drop down you can point it to cylinder. So now when we fit it as a cylinder, we can see that it is going to identify a radius and a height, as you can see in this particular screen. You can also use this to fit primitives now. So if you wanted to fit this as a cylinder by itself, you can go ahead and say extract a particular solid primitive, and you can also click on this region and take a preview of how it's going to look like. You can take it as a cone and you can select this particular area as well. And you can also check for the accuracy of the particular part, and you can say okay. So you can also use these features like cylinders, cones, etc. from the regions to create the appropriate primitives as required and needed. And as you know, this would provide you with a sketch and an extrude, which you can edit at any time as needed. So here, for example, you can bring it up to the top like that and say okay. And you can also come here to the extrude command, and instead of an insert, you can merge it together to create this particular conical structure. You can also use the regions to find out options like vectors, etc. So if needed, you can find the conical vector by taking this particular area as well. So here we'll, in order to practice regions a bit more, you can also select these faces and practice regions. So I'm selecting this back face here. I'm inserting that as a region. I'm selecting this area here. You can add that as a region, and so on. So you can proceed this way. So you can insert this particular area as a region, and if you need to split, you can either select that area and add a new region. So I can go here, I can make a line selection, and say insert. Now this will add a new region for the selection and also for this area here. This is a plane and this is also a plane. And here we have an area that looks like a revolution. So if you want to split it further, you can go to the split command as well. Then you can select, say, from this point up until this point, we need to make a split. Then you can say, okay, so this is a portion, this is another portion. And if you click on this cylinder and go to properties, you'll know the radius, height, and other details of that cylinder. So now I can click here on mesh sketch, and let's take an offset, and we can go ahead and make our sketch. So here we clicked on the mesh sketch option, and you can hide this particular area. Then you can start making your sketch. So I can make a best fit few lines like this. And you can trim them together by using the corner trim tool. So you can trim them out, and we can also add a fillet here like that. Now I'm going to add a fillet again, and you can place it on top of the trace so that it looks good. And once you feel that we have made the sketch appropriately, you can go into the model tab and say extrude. Now you can say extrude, and instead of using a blind method, we can click the drop down on blind and go to up to region. So here we choose up to region, and we choose the region up until which we want to make the extrusion. And you can check the accuracy analyzer tool. It looks very green, and you can say okay. So here now we have the second part made this way. So likewise, we can keep on proceeding with this particular model. So here if we need to make this planar area, we can go ahead and use the vector that we had extracted previously. So we have a vector extracted previously that looks like that. Now you can go to regions and you can shade a particular area here. So I'm going to shade this area here and insert it as a region. Now you can hover over and see that this area is showing itself as a cylinder. So if needed, you can come and split some of these areas up. So I can split this particular region from this point to this point. I'll also split this area, and I'll split this area here. So we are going to repeat that here. So single click and click again. You can click and you can separate areas to make new regions. Then you can say okay. And if you want to combine these two, you can select just these two regions. You can click on region 1 and control click on region 2 and do merge. Now this will form another particular region. Now in order to make a best fit plane, you can always in order to make a normal plane, you can always go ahead and select that particular option, or you can also select other areas like this and insert your regions and keep on proceeding with the model of interest. So here we have this particular shape that we need completed. Let's make further regions. So just is an easy process. Just select the polygons you need and insert and say okay. Select the polygons you need. If you select excess, then you would have to separate them again. So it's easier to be a bit more careful at the selection stage itself. So I can select this area and say insert, and now you can be splitting them together. So I can say limit to only this region and split from here to here. Okay, now let's make a split here in this area and say okay. So now we have split that region into 1, 2, and 3 parts. This is going to take some time to practice, but once you have performed the process enough number of times, this is a pretty easy. This is going to be pretty easy to work with and proceed ahead. So you can use these regions here again. You can go to that planar region. You can offset that region a little bit, and you can use it to make your sketches. So I can go here, best fit line, best fit line, best fit lines here. And you can trim them together using the corner trim tool. So you can go here to the trim tool and you can trim these edges together. So here I'm trimming them up. And then you can go into the fillet tool and fillet it. So you can either fillet it at this stage or you can leave it here and you can extrude up until the region that you need. So you can say extrude this and choose this sketch. And you can always check for disjoint ends. So you can see that there's a disjoint end here. So I will trim it together again. And now you can choose extrude option and click on this particular sketch and you can extrude it up until the area you need. Let us say you need it up until here, and you can use an insert command and say okay. Now we have inserted this particular area and you can see that we capture these faces in a very nice and green fashion. Now we can go ahead and add a fillet. So I can choose fillet command here from the 3D model tool. So here in my model tab, I have the fillet command. So I can click on that fillet command and I can select an edge and say estimate radius from mesh. So here, if I look at this particular area, you can see that it has provided this particular fillet radius for me. If you feel it's not very accurate, you can always come here and you can split this region. So you can split this region using the same method we discussed previously. So we have split this region into a few pieces. And now I can go here to cylinder properties and I can see that its radius is around 6.2196 millimeters. And this is still a cylinder. So I can show my solid and apply that fillet radius here. So I can choose a radius of 6 and I can see it's fitting nice and accurate. So it is supposed to be 6.21, so I can fit it there and choose it for my remaining edges. So here when you click, you can see that it's turning green and it's matching very well with the mesh that is lying underneath. This process is pretty easy to perform and follow, and we can use it to generate the further areas of interest that we need and complete the modeling process, so on. So here we see that there is another cylindrical looking region. So you can practice regions again. So we can go to the region tab and you can select out these particular areas. And please be careful to not select excessive zones. So you can select it carefully. So you can select some areas like that. And you can add to your selection. I'm selecting those triangles. Let me select these particular areas here. And I've particularly noticed that the polyline selection tool is very effective, as you can go over these areas with single clicks and then do a double click to finish off your selection. So I'm doing a click here, single click, single click, single click, single click again, and I'm making the area around which I need the polygons, and I do a double click to finish off this particular zone. And once I'm here, I can say insert, and I can come over to this particular area, select enough data, and say insert again. So that's another region. And following this, if I need to merge them both, I can click on this area and say merge. Now it's gonna make it into a single figure. It has identified this particular part as a conical body, which you can make either a conical primitive or a cylindrical primitive as per your requirements. Now that we have added the fillets, we can go ahead and proceed towards this particular model. So here I can hide my mesh, then I can use this plane. So I can say make a mesh sketch for me across this plane. So I can right click on this face and I can use a mesh sketch, and I can show my mesh and hide my solid. Now you can offset this to wherever you feel comfortable. So I'm offsetting it to this region or this area here so that I capture this particular flat area, and I can say okay. Now this is going to provide us with our base shape, and we can best fit lines by clicking on the line tool and double clicking. Now if any of those lines don't show up as lines, you can always choose the rectangular selection mode, then you can drag box over them and best fit a line. So I'm best fitting another line here, and after that we can start our trimming and extending process. So I'm going to trim using the corner trim tool, and we can trim these sides. So I'm trimming these sides here, I'm trimming this side like that. And in order to extend, you can click on the resize tool and extend out this particular portion. These areas are covered in the previous chapters as we discussed. So I'm creating another line and I'm closing out this sketch. And once we have completed with this particular sketch, we see that we have our solid body, and now we can go ahead and say extrude. And we have another method called extrude up to vertex. So you can say extrude up to vertex and choose a vertex like this particular point. Now I can say extrude up to vertex, and instead of the merge tool, we can use the cut tool. So when we take a look at this particular area, it gives us a nice preview of this cut of this particular mesh. Once this is done, we can go ahead and add our fillets. So I'm going to add the same fillet radius as I had added previously. You can also click and drag this fillet below and adjust the fillet accordingly. So I'm adjusting and adding these edges, as you can see here. Then finally we can add these fillet areas as well. So I can pick this particular edge and ask it to find the radius of that fillet. So I'm going to go down, and you can estimate it from the mesh. It came as 5.2 3, 6, and repeat the process of adding fillets. So pick the edge of interest, and again estimate the radius from the mesh and apply it all along the way. So we can apply these fillet radiuses this way. So here I'm adding this particular area. This came out to be 2.5, so I can choose that value and add it here. Likewise, we have a fillet here. So this is the 3D filleting tool. So you can practice filleting this way. You can add the approximate radius of interest, and you can fillet out this particular edge. So here you can go ahead and add, say, a 2 mm fillet and say OK. So here we have made this particular part of this body, and you can say that it's a pretty good fit. Now here we have another conical looking hole. So we are going to use the same process again. So we can select this particular areas of this cone. So here we have selected it using the Smart Selection tool. Then we go ahead and say Insert. And here we can select this area and say Insert again. So this is a plane and this is a cone. So we can go to our Solid Primitive tool, or we can also go to the Vector tool here and say Find Cone Axis. So you can use this method called Find Cone Axis, and you can choose like select the conical axis of this particular region. This is also very much possible, and after that you can go ahead and make a vector. So after you made the vector, you can make a coplanar plane by going to pick point and coplanar axis, and you can select this vector 2 and select any other point. So let us say we select a point here, and the software will make a coplanar plane for you. Once this process is performed, we can create another mesh sketch and trace out that particular cone. So I'm going to do only one side like that. And here we have the lines of the cone. So I double click and best fit a cone there. And we can make a center line along our vector of interest like that. So I'm going to extend it a tad bit up and down. And here for this flat portion, I can use my rectangular selection mode and create that particular area. So I created this particular area, and I can trim and close them up together. And I'm extending this that way. And if needed, you can add a constraint. So I can make this vector and this line be 90 degrees to each other. You can either use the Smart Dimension tool. So you can select it like that and make it like 90 degrees. Say OK. Now I'll just close out this particular hole. So I'm closing out this sketch. So my final sketch will look like this. And I can chop off the unwanted regions with the Power Trim tool, which can be found from the Trim tool here. And I'm chopping these unnecessary regions, followed by revolving this body. So here we made the sketch, and we have this particular body looking like this. So I can go ahead and say revolve this particular sketch and choose a merge option. So now here in your solid, you'll have an interface that looks like this, following which you can add fillets in this particular area to match it as needed. So you can either find that particular radius, and you can add the edges as necessary and fill it out. So with this, we have extracted that particular conical area as well. Now we can come over to this particular side, and we can see that there is a particular region over here which we created. So we can extract a conical area over there as well, then further proceed on with our modeling. So I can go ahead and extract a vector, and I can say find cone axis or find revolving axis, and say OK. Now we can fit another plane. It's the same philosophy, so you can choose a coplanar plane across a point where you seem fit, and following that you can extract a mesh sketch. So here I have extracted this particular area. I'm going to hide my mesh and my solid, and I can see that this is the cone that we want to create. So I'm going to the line tool, then you can best fit a particular line here, like that. You can extend it as needed, so I can click on the resize tool here, and I can extend it out like that. You can also extend a line this way. And now I can hide my mesh, and I can create my center line. So I'm orienting this normal to, I'm going to the line tool, and I can choose the center line drop down, and I can click a line coincident on the vector and extend that center line out. Now I can draw another line. I'll initially draw a random line like this, and I can make this line perpendicular, and I can ensure that I pass through this particular point of interest. So I drag it and place it here. And now I can use the trim tool, and I can use the power trim tool and chop off the excess sections. So I can chop off these excess sections this way, like that. And I will close out this sketch by adding another line. So I'll take a line and pass it after the center line, and use the power trim command and chop off this excess portion. So here we have created this particular conical shape, and we can use the revolve tool in the model tab. So in the model tab we have the revolve tool. We can revolve it, and we can check it on how it looks with respect to our mesh, and we can say OK. So here now we have created this particular portion of the cone, and we can see that it fits well with our mesh. These areas are all green in the accuracy analyzer, and I can go ahead and add a filleting if necessary there, and finish out this model step by step. So again, this particular area, select, shade it as a region. Select this portion, insert, and shade it as a region. Now use the line selector tool, hover over it, and you'll see that it's a plane. So you can kind of use the mesh sketch. You can come over this particular area, and you can select out the section as necessary. So we can move below this fillet and say OK there. Now we can hide your mesh and solid, and we can see that we have this particular structure here. So I'm going to best fit my lines by double clicking. I'm going to best fit my lines here as well. Now I can trim and close them with the corner trim tool, so I can intersect them. I can intersect them here again with my corner trim tool, following which I can add a fillet. So here I'm going to add a fillet tool. So We can go to the line tool, best fit a line, and here I'm best fitting another line across this area, best fitting a line here, and best fitting another line like that. Now I can use the corner trim tool and intersect these areas. I'm doing the same operation here. And now I can use the fillet tool and I can uncheck specify value. Now you can click on edge 1 and click and hold your mouse and drag and position this fillet. Now once this is made, you can see that there is an radius 6.1843. You can use specify value and you can pick these two edges, after which you can drag and place your fillet on top. So this way you can make your basic sketch and go back into mesh sketch again. Then you can go to the model tab and you can say extrude this body, and here you can choose direction 1. In the method you can choose extrude up to region, and you can say extrude, you can choose this particular region, plane region, which came here, and click on OK. So slowly, bit by bit, we can perform this particular process and complete this particular model of interest. So here now is also pretty, it's as you can see, the model is turning pretty green everywhere. Then you can add and insert your fillets and proceed with the further operations. So this was the major concept about regions. You can analyze and segment the different areas of a particular body with any selection tool. So here I'm using the lasso selection tool. Then I am selecting as many polygons as needed. So here I've selected these many polygons, and I can go ahead and say insert. Now when I click insert, the software will identify this region as a cylinder, and I can either extract a cylindrical vector, or I can go ahead and use the solid primitive tool. I can form a cylinder and say OK. Now this is gonna give me this particular cylinder, which is well fitting with this area of the mesh. And after this process is complete, I can hide my mesh. I can come to the sketch tool, then I can pull this down so that we pass through that particular area as needed, and you can say OK. So we can finish this area with the merging here, and here, as you can see, we get this particular area fit with respect to this particular body. And in areas like this, we see that a cone has traveled excess. So when you click on this particular surface, it automatically takes you to the feature of interest, which you can place on top of your mesh, and you can extrude it or adjust it to the correct length as needed. So I'm gonna extrude it or move it slightly to the left so that it's nice and smooth here. You can also generate hexagons like this. So you can obviously use the base portion here and extract a hexagon. So I can show my solid. I can use this particular face of the solid, make a right click and do mesh sketch. Most of the reverse engineering process is like tracing for engineers, so you can offset it to where you get a good preview by clicking and holding this blue arrow. And after that, you can hide the items like the solids and the meshes. Then you can start making your hexagon of interest. Now you can say all of them need to have a 60-degree angle. You can apply your whatever constraints you need, and you can use the trim tool and trim out this particular area of interest. So you can also go here to constraints and make them all equal length. So you can pick multiple edges as well and go to constraints and say make them equal length. And after this, you can come out of the sketch. You can go to the solid. You can show the mesh, and in order to make it extrude up to this region, all we have to do is select this region, insert, and then you go to the extrude command, and you can select this particular sketch and say extrude up to region, and you choose up until this region, and you say OK. And we can also finish off the fillets in this particular area, and also this particular bolt that needs to be figured out. So here again, we use that area, say make an offset, and we create that hexagon. So here for this bolt, we are right away fixing these lines. We can use the corner trim tool and trim them out together. And following that, we can choose these lines. I'm control clicking on these lines. I have all lines selected. I go to constraints and I can say make them all equal length. You can add further constraints like make these two lines parallel. Any sort of these constraints can be added as needed to make your particular bolt. And we can select this particular top area, and we can say insert that as a region, and we can extrude this sketch. So extrude this sketch. In the method, we can use up to region and pick the region of interest and say OK. Now similarly for this hole, you can select this region and offset it so that you get a good preview of the circular hole. Hide your mesh, hide your solid, and choose the circle tool and best fit out a circle. Now once you're at this point, shade this bottom area, add that as a region. So we have a bottom region here for this particular hole. And now you can go to the model tab, go to extrude, and you can choose this sketch and extrude it up to this region and use your cut option. So as you proceed through this particular model, you can see that it's taking shape, and now we can see that the model is very green. And we can proceed and go ahead to adding our fillets as necessary. So here I'm adding a 4 mm fillet. I'll add that here as well. And you can also hold an edge like that and add your fillets. You can always edit the fillet so that it fits more accurately to the mesh lying underneath. So this area here, this area here. And say OK, like that. So here, as you can see, we get a pretty nice fit. And after this, you can make all the through holes as necessary. So in this particular exercise, we saw how we can use regions. We saw how we can select areas of the scan data and insert the regions. We also saw how we can select rather large areas and split those regions into smaller and more accurate regions. The regions also give us a good information on what type of a surface it is. It helps you identify if the particular surface is a plane or a cylinder, etc. So you can hover over your mouse and you can see this is a cylinder, this is a plane, this is also a plane. We have a cylinder here. This particular portion is a cylindrical area. This area is a conical area. And you can also click on these particular regions and go to its properties tab to identify the height, top radius, bottom radius, etc. of these features. And we can also use features like extrude, and you can use the extrude up to feature, cut up to feature to extract the regions as necessary. The regions that we made can also be merged with other regions to create a bigger region, and you can use these regions to extract construction geometries like planes, vectors, etc. You can right click on a planar region and use it to extract your mesh sketching. For a cylindrical or a conical region, you can automatically extract the axis vectors and make rotational sketches, and you can slowly build up your model, as you can see, piece by piece here. So the regions are very beneficial when it comes to getting a feel on how to approach the model, segment different areas, and just work with those areas and develop out your model step by step. Thank you.